All right, we're in business. I just want something to drink. All right, you may be watching this on, if you're watching it live, it's on Facebook. If you're every Saturday at 2, if you're watching this recorded, you're on YouTube. So welcome to everyone, regardless of the platform you're watching this on. This is Spiritual Self-Defense podcast, a weekly podcast I do every Saturday at 2 o'clock. This spiritual self-defense means we're defending ourselves from stuff that goes on the outside. Okay, to put it a little more elegantly, it's protection for your mind, emotions, and your life. When you go out in the real world and you have to physically defend yourself against attackers, so too you must defend your mind against laziness, self-doubt, lack of confidence, sloppy thinking, criticism from others, and even frequencies and vibrations from other people. And that's going to be the topic of today's talk. I keep these short, like 15 minutes or so. But the topic of this week is called "The Mind is Very Sensitive." The mind is very sensitive. And the basis for this, the reason I came up with that title, and this is in part expressed in one of the recent Instagram posts. And if you're watching this, regardless of where you're watching this, shout out to my intern and assistant, Vanessa, who's been working on the Instagram posts very diligently. So thank you, Vanessa. And the most recent post, which was that you're the average of the 5 frequencies that you're around. Now, what I mean by that, and there's a picture of this person listening to like headphones to music. This was an offshoot of a famous quote that everyone in self-help has heard of. I think it's been attributed to Jim Rohn, but it's the quote, "You're the average of the 5 closest people to you." And so this is a little bit of an offshoot, because if you ask me, what's going on at the deeper level is that, in a way, yes, you're the average of the 5 people that you're around, but to be more specific, each of those 5 people then has 5 sub-characters that they play at different times. Each of those characters then has a voice. So you have to ask yourself, you, in your current life, with your current outlook and the situations, environments you find yourself in, and the people you know, your friends, family, coworkers, etc., you have these different characters that you use at different times, and that's revealed through your tonality. So if I were to follow you around, or if some, magic camera followed you around and recorded your voice and the way that your mannerisms and everything, it would switch up based on what context you were in, based on who you were talking to, coworkers versus neighbors versus your grandparents versus your friends, longtime friends. So we have these different voices. Now, among those voices, some you can take those voices that you have and rank them because they vary in their level of confidence. They vary in their level of confidence, their level of assertiveness, their level of certainty. And so you can listen to someone. And of course, at times we maybe one of our 5 voices dominates most of the time. We probably know the Pareto principle of the 80-20 rule, that probably 80% of your day is spent in just one of your characters, right? Like 20% of your characters would be one out of 5. So maybe you do spend most of the day in one character, but then you got to ask yourself, what voice does that character have? Now let's get into the frequency and the vibration of the voices. So as I go through my day and I notice and I hear things, I overhear things, right? I overhear someone walk into the room and give an exhalation or a sigh, of defeat or overwhelm, right? This day is just so hard, they'll say. And immediately I flag that. I flag it like spam email, right? that you flag it before it even hits your emotions. It gets flagged, and then I say, okay, now what vibration is that? That's victim mindset, that's low vibration, etc., etc. And once I identify and tag it or flag it, then it has less power over me and less influence over my vibration. Okay. That being said, that takes a lot of psychic energy. It consumes and it burns a lot of psychic energy that could be used for other things. So it's this weird paradox, right? Of like, on the one hand, we say, oh, don't let the environment, don't be control, or don't be influenced by like other people, like, do you, or like do your own thing, um, or right, be like independent. Yet at the same time, as human beings, we have these antennas um, sticking out of us that are always in receive mode. Like we're receiving vibrations from our environment because we need to know what is the state of our environment. That's very relevant to survival. We need to know if people are angry with us or not, blah blah blah. So we're always going to be kind of, I guess, influenced by our environment, and yet, um, at the same time, we want to be kind of resilient when it comes to the environment. So it's a bit of a paradox there. But I think a good starting point is to recognize the level of vibration of these other people, right? So you could be around somebody, and what doesn't influence you is, it's not the person that they are that influences you. It's the mindset of that person. They could have a range of mindsets. They could have five different mindsets, right? They could be, if they're out, at the beach, they could have a certain vocabulary and mindset and tonality and vibe to them of being very relaxed, easygoing, blah blah blah. But the minute you put them in a stressful situation, boom, they switch to a different one of their five characters, and they lose their composure and they start freaking out. And they're like, oh, no, no. And then they get grumpy, and they get right. And that person cannot handle stress. That person is not capable of handling pressure. So it depends which frequency the other person is in when you're around them. That's what influences you. Not just straight up, who are you around. That being said, obviously some people, more successful people, are spending more of the day in these optimal frequencies, right? These empowering frequencies. Let's wrap up with a quick little assessment of mindsets, right? Because this week I think that I realized that there's these three levels of mindsets, right? There's like the lowest level mindset, which is victim mindset, where you kind of, you have a bad attitude and you don't realize your attitude is bad. So that's when people go around like blaming everybody else for things. Oh, I was late because of traffic and this and that, and rent prices are so high in the Bay Area, and blah, blah, blah. And just their complete focus is on things that are out of their control, and they just complain about it and never work on themselves. That's the lowest level, right? Then you've got this very deceptive level where a lot of people, I think, are in this category, where they can tell a negative attitude when they see it, but they always identify the negative attitude in other people, not themselves. And so that manifests in complaining about complainers, or getting a negative attitude about other people's negative attitudes. And that is that's like a big trap, I think, because I've found myself in that category over the years. And if I catch myself, then I try to get out of that as soon as possible. But it's deceptive because, again, you're using up energy. You're burning like mind, thought. I see mind and thought energy like fossil fuels, like you fill your car with fuel at the gas station and then you burn and then it gets burned off, right? Like it's a scarce resource. So your psychic mental energy, if you're spending that to if you're using that to spot and call out complainers with negative attitudes when you could be working towards your goals or doing something else productive, that's a pitfall. So that answers the question of what's the highest level. The highest level mindset is where you truly honor yourself so much that when other people have negative attitudes or fall short in one way or another, you actually don't pay attention to it. Like I was on the phone with a friend yesterday, and she said, "Did anything funny happen in your day?" And I said, "Yeah, I have a story for you." And then I said, "Actually, I don't want to tell that story because it's a story of how someone was falling short in my expectations of them, right?" And I didn't want to tell that story because why? Because it would keep investing psychic energy into this other person's like shortcoming. Like, why would I want to put more energy into that when I could invest that energy into something else that's going to move me forward? I'm not going to benefit by telling that story, right? I want every action that I take to be clean in the sense that it's in full alignment with my goals. And if by using that standard, that's how I'm able to drop anything that doesn't contribute towards my goal. All right, that's what I wanted to say for this week. So think deeply, put your existence first, and make sure you're subscribed to YouTube, Instagram, and the Facebook page so that you can see all of these posts and watch recordings in case you miss them. All right, talk soon.